All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are now going to talk about the potential rule changes in the NFL and if I'm in favor of these rules or not. So, one of them we actually did talk about before, and that is the banning of the tush push. But there's a couple of other ones as well that I wanted to discuss. So, we'll get the tush push out of the way. So, obviously, the Packers, they proposed a ban on the tush push. So it would amend Rule 12, Section 1, prohibits an offensive player from pushing a teammate who is lined up directly behind the snapper and received the snap immediately. So, yeah, banning of the tush push. Look, as much as I think the tush push is ridiculous and it's annoying at times, I don't think it should be banned. I've taken that stance and I'm going to stay with it because it's successful because the Eagles have a great offensive line. Because the Eagles also, well, they just won the Super Bowl. And they didn't win the Super Bowl because of the tush push. They won the Super Bowl because they're a great team. The tush push is an accessory to that. You know, they have the ability to do that because of the personnel. And eventually, the tush push is not going to work. It's not going to work. Because, the Eagles, yeah, they are able to, lose guys and then they're able to replace them. That's what they did with Jason Kelsey. That's what they did with Fletcher Cox. They're going to have to do the same thing with Brandon Graham. They lost Josh Sweat. They cut Darius Slay, James Bradbury. They traded C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They're going to have to replace those guys. They'll figure it out. On the offensive line, yeah, you lost Kelsey. Lane Johnson's still sticking around, but at some point, he's going to call it a career, and they're going to replace him. The Eagles are a well-run organization. We've said it many times. And, you could see part of my Giants comforter behind me. I don't like saying it, but you have no choice. You have no choice. They just won the Super Bowl. And, how come some of these other teams, when they try it, it doesn't work? You know why? Because you don't have the personnel that the Eagles have. Now, I don't know how the Bills had such a problem doing it. It's, again, the offensive line. But you have Josh Allen, who should be able to truck anybody. And it's annoying that we had to have that controversy over that first down because now everyone points to that as that's the reason the Bills lost, because they didn't pick up that first down. Well, you got to see the Chiefs get obliterated in the Super Bowl. So I hope you were happy. But they should not ban the tush push. They shouldn't. And I know there's people that are going to say it should be because it's not football. I understand that. But at some point, it will be stopped. And, they talk about player safety. Who has gotten hurt? Who has suffered a significant injury from running the tush push? I want to know. Because there really isn't anybody out there. There really has not been a significant injury from it. And until that happens, it's not going to get banned. Like and we've talked about this. If someone gets significantly hurt, and it's a big name player, then it'll get banned, or the conversations will really increase on that. But it's not going to happen. Now, the other rule changes. So, well, actually, one of them is it would eliminate an automatic first down. So this is amend Rule 8, Section 4. Eliminates an automatic first down as a penalty for defensive holding and illegal contact. That one I actually don't really have a problem with. I'm okay with that. I don't really have any complaints on that. The other one that I don't really have a problem with, that was not the one I was going to mention, but the other one is align postseason and regular season overtime rules. Both teams get possession regardless of the first possession outcome. Regular season overtime set to 15 minutes. I have no problem with that. I think you should. You have it in the postseason. Implement it in the regular season. Now, the reason why I think the reason why they narrowed it down to 10 minutes is so, it's a faster overtime period. But, yeah, I guess they made the change in the postseason because they believed, hey, it's a big game. You want to see the other team have an opportunity to possess the ball if the first team goes down the field and gets a touchdown. Because how many times, during Aaron Rodgers' career, did we see, him not get the ball in overtime? Team goes right down the field and scores a touchdown. The Cardinals did it to him, and the year before that, it was the Seahawks, obviously. Well, the Packers shouldn't have been in that position anyways, but they ended up blowing that lead. It's whatever. But, yeah, I mean, you wanted to... You want to see that. And then, also when Patrick Mahomes would get the ball in overtime against Josh Allen, that's the reason why the rule changed, is because of the Bills. But yeah, I don't have a problem with that one. Now, here's one that I really have a problem with. This is the one, now, other than the tush push, this one I have a problem with. Allows wild card teams to be seeded higher than division champions if they have a better regular season record. Not for that. Everybody was complaining about that because, the Vikings, they had 14 wins, and the Lions, same thing. But, the Lions beat them, and then the Vikings ended up going from potentially the number 1 seed to now the 5 seed, and they're playing against the Rams. It was unique circumstances. You had 2 teams that had really good records, and it just so happened that they played in the same division. That's not going to happen every year. You're not going to get 2 plus 14-win teams from the same division in the playoffs every year. You're not going to get that. It's not happening. I'm not for that. You're watering down the importance of your division. Now, I get it. Because then you could also say, well, look at the NFC South the last few years. The Bucs won it in Brady's last year. They were 8-9. You shouldn't have an 8-9 team hosting a playoff game. But you know what? They won their division. And that's not going to happen every year. Now this year they went 10-7. Win your division. You know what? And well, actually, the funny thing is that's the Lions proposing that rule. If it was the Vikings, then you could say, well, you're only saying that because you lost the division. The Lions are the team that did it. But I'm sorry. You gotta, you have to win your division. The Lions did do that, so I guess they're trying to help the Vikings out. But this was a unique year. That's, like I said, that's not going to happen every single year. Your division is supposed to be the most important. That's what gets you, a home playoff game. At least one home playoff game. I know, because if that gets implemented, we could see a scenario where, well, actually, not really, but, yeah, I think keep everything the way it is. I'm not for that. Now, if this continues on a trend where we see what we saw this year, and next year we have another division where you have 2 teams that have 13, 14 plus wins. If that continues, okay, but I don't think that's happening. You're not going to get 2 teams with around the same record, 13, 14 wins in the same division every year. You're just not going to get that. You're not. So I am not for that. Keep it the way it is. And then there's another one that was proposed by Detroit. Excludes players placed on reserve, injured reserve before or on roster cut down day to 53 players from the 90 player limit unless they are designated for return. I mean, that one, don't really have a strong opinion on that. The one that I have the strongest opinion on is giving wildcard teams a higher seed. That's the one I feel the strongest on. And then the tush push I said shouldn't be banned. But, yeah, I mean, because if you're a division winner and you're now a lower seed, it's like, well, what was the point of winning the division then? That's the thing. It lessens the importance of winning the division for certain teams. So, like I said, not for that. But let me know what you guys think about these rule changes. Now, they're potential rule changes. That doesn't mean they're necessarily going to happen. But some of them, like the overtime rule, I could see. But yeah, I mean, if the tush push gets, I mean, look, if the tush push got banned, so be it. Like, I'm not going to complain about it. I don't think it should be banned, but you know, people are complaining about it. They want it gone. Then stop it. I mean, look, it was ridiculous in the championship game with Frankie Louvu jumping off sides constantly. But again, that's only happened once. Something like that's only happened once. And sometimes the Eagles, they jump off sides. Or there's a false start. And then they got to back up. And then, then you actually have to hand it off to Saquon Barkley for a touchdown. So you score anyways. And I'm talking like the Eagles are the ones trying to get it banned. No, I'm just saying, the Eagles, they do it to themselves sometimes too on that play, but it shouldn't be banned. So, and the seating change, I mean, you're turning it into the NBA, but that's what the NBA does. You're the NFL. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Yeah, you can keep adding wild card teams if you want, but don't change how the seedings are formatted. You win your division, it's supposed to be important. So you could tell that I'm not in favor of that. No, I'm not in favor of it. So that's pretty much it when talking about that. Let me know what you guys think though about the rule changes. What ones are you in favor of? What ones are you not in favor of? Let me know in the comments. So when we come back from our next break, we'll talk some baseball. We'll talk about Jacob deGrom. The expectations for him going into the season, as he is set to hopefully pitch a full year. So we will talk about that and what to expect from him on that front. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.